This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Live tonight for the virtual Phoenix Raceway. For the final time this season, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to LSR TV's coverage of the 2020 Real Sim Racing Icebreaker Winter Series, supporting the Nevada Partnership for Homeless Youth. As we had on every Monday night since last year, happy that you're with us on LSR TV, the iRacing Sports Network, for tonight's NPHY.org 150. As always, myself, Evan Pasoko, Justin Prince, and Randy Chenneth with you. And Justin, the championship was officially decided headed into last week at Talladega, but that did not mean that all was lost, because we saw the closest finish in RSR history at Dega last week. Daniel Everhart by a dead heat on our scoring and timing 0.000 gets the race win at a photo finish, and we still have one more chance for some excitement tonight.
Absolutely. It was a thrilling way to end off what was a thrilling race at Talladega, but today's race is going to be interesting. It's a very hot racetrack, 117 degrees Fahrenheit the track temp. And this is a track that is known to be a mixture of a bit of a rhythm track to get yourself together on a short circuit, but also involving tire management. It'll be interesting to see what strategies come out the best tonight here at Phoenix Raceway.
And of course, Phoenix, to follow along with the actual Xfinity Series calendar for this year, becomes the season finale venue, and a lot of drivers were looking forward to that being the case. Again, we mentioned the championship out of the picture already. Andrew Ferdinand has it secured. There could be, though, some late drama, because there is a tie for second in the championship. Kyle Kamer, Scott McClendon tied for that number 2 spot in the points. All of that as a result of Kyle Trudell being unable to make the final 2 starts for the season. He'll probably drop as low as maybe P5 or 6 by the time the night is done. That may be one of the highlighted battles, but the point that Daniel made, I guess you should say, when we talked to him at Talladega last week, was that because the points for the championship, and of course the trophy that comes with that, was out of the picture, the only thing that these drivers really care about, Justin, is going for the checkered flags. That could mean that I could be excited, especially if we see some pit strategy, some drama, or some late race restarts like Phoenix tends to provide.
Absolutely. It's going to make it very interesting and very intriguing. I wouldn't be surprised to see drivers say, if we get a later yellow flag, to try and stay out and hope they can hold on to positions. Or in some cases, drivers to try and stretch as long as they can on fuel to have the freshest tires. Wouldn't be surprised either to see drivers try and undercut severely amongst some of the competitors to try and get a big time advantage with how this track's tire degradation comes in. There are a lot of different ways you can approach this race today, and we're going to see which one comes out as the best way to attack it.
And it'll be a 150-lap contest. This Phoenix Raceway, just a bit over a mile in length. So I think our total mileage tonight is something like 153.3 miles. From the green flag to the drop of the checkered flag. But of course, as we wait for this qualifying session to draw down to a close. About the top half of the grid going for times at Q, the bottom half looking to not take times at qualifying, try to stay out of the chaos early and then work their way in, Justin. But late in the season, about a half a field here compared to what we saw earlier this year. So that means that space at the racetrack, even though it is Phoenix, it's a little bit tighter, going to be more readily available than it has been for a majority of this 2020 campaign. That could lend itself to green flag racing.
Yeah, indeed it can. This is a track where, yes, there's the chance for potential attrition, especially off the starts. But if you can get a long run in, say past 15, 20 laps, that's where the drivers and their strengths come into form, and that's where they're able, a lot of them can get into a good rhythm to try and set up passes and set themselves consistently around the track.
One last ride for this Icebreaker campaign. Let's go trackside and take a look at tonight's LSR TV starting grid. Pole position goes to Jonathan Cadell. He's the best, a 28.065. Beats out Daniel Eberhardt for the top spot on the grid as they start first and second. Back on road 2, David Washington will roll from third, along with Bobby Terrell right there with him. A great run last week at Talladega for the 4 car. He'll start from 4th, and the 8 of Kyle Kamer inside of row 3 in P5.
Ross Cato with a good qualifying run starts in 6th position. In row number 4, it's Galen Gidman in the 94 machine in P number 7, with Brian Chambliss and his Adam Petty throwback in P number 8. Rounding up the top 10, Scott McClendon in 9th, Michael Kaczynski inside the top 10.
3 more times put down in Q. It'll include Sam Nieto, who rolls from 11th position, John Rodden, who starts in P12, and Tom Moreno in 13th spot. The rest of the field going to be provisionals. It is spearheaded by Andrew Farinas, who will actually be further down. Eric Stanford, I guess I should say, is actually going to be 14th on the grid. Steve Sola, therefore, ends up P15 in the Bud Light entry.
Bobby Krug will line up in 16th position. Kyle Brooks in 17th. 18th, Michael Mosher. 19th, Trevin Valderrama in 20th position. Andrew Freenos, 21st position. Expect to be Steve Durham. 21 total drivers made their way to Phoenix Raceway for tonight's action. Should be interesting to see which one can take home the checker.
That's their look top to bottom. Let's talk more about this Phoenix Raceway. As mentioned, 1.022 miles in length for 4 quarters of the banking in that dogleg and back straightaway where we are right now, where it's wide open, 10 to 11 degrees up top. Of course, turn 1, 8 degrees, and I guess turn 2, 8 to 9, a little bit of a difference. And then down to the far to the racetrack, turn 3 and 4 at 10 to 11. It races like a short track, though. Despite its relatively large size, it should be a fantastic venue in these Xfinity Series cars to close out what has been a very exciting 2020 RealSimRacing Icebreaker Winter Series campaign. We're happy that you've been with us all season long, and we're happy you're with us tonight from the Arizona desert, where we say, let's go racing from Phoenix. Green flag in the air for round 10.
Very clean start already, but it's going to be interesting to see what Daniel Eberhardt does off this green flag, to see if he tries to be a bit patient or if he tries to send it as hard as he can and as aggressively as he can to try and get that clean air.
You can see on board with him as he looks to the inside. Cadell really washes high at a turn 4. The 90 is going to get a nose to the quarter panel, but it is not going to be enough quite yet. So lap 1 goes to Cadell in the 69 Toyota. So Eberhardt stays second. Washington still third, but a big mover behind there saw Ross Cato in the 12 car. Start P6. There he is in the blue and black Ford Mustang. Started in P6. He gained 2 from the get-go as he jumps up to 4th.
Well, we're seeing from the racing line here too, Evan, that you want to be able to stick it a little bit down along the old line, especially in 3 and 4. And the bottom line, the line you have to be on in 1 and 2, or else you lose a lot of momentum for the dogleg portion of the racetrack. So it's key to get the good lines to be able to keep on moving forward. If you're Ross Cato at this point, if you slide up, you have the chance to allow someone to try and go underneath.
And that's what we saw with Eberhard on that very first lap as Cadell slid up a little bit. The inside of his open, he put a nose there, just wasn't able to make the move. There's some chaos, though. You saw it there, kind of mid-pack or so. A couple of cars battling side by side. Ferdinand, by not taking the time in qualifying in the 88 car, has to deal with all of that traffic. You see race leaders all strung out single file. He's trying to make his moves on slower cars mid-pack. He just passed Kuczynski for P12.
A lot of the race leaders that are just getting into a rhythm. It can take multiple laps to set things up. Plus, when it comes to the aerodynamics of this racetrack, Evan, you have to deal with a lot of potential aero push, which can affect your ability to try and get a run. The more you're behind somebody, the more you have to try and work the wheel, get off the throttle, make sure you don't plow up to the fence or bobble loose. So you have to try and play the different lines to try and get around. By the way, the clean air still is allowing Cadell to try and pull away.
He is. He's going to try to get that separation, and we'll see if weathering, I guess I should say, that initial storm is going to be enough for Cadell to run out in front of this because, well, he gaps Eberhard by just a little bit. Eberhard still dealing with Washington third and Cato fourth. We mentioned Kyle Kamer, Brian Chambliss. I mean, all these drivers stacked up single file. P2 through 5 is really a tight cluster at a turn 4. Kyle Kamer really the closest down the back to Cato in a battle that would be for P4 and 5. Nobody making moves yet, though, as it's Cadell clean air up front.
Yeah, and the difference between the clean air and potential of dirty air is a lot of these drivers are getting pretty tight off the corners to try and make sure they don't tap the walls. Ross Cato already trying to go up to the top side, searching for any type of clean air at this point. And I like that type of move if you're a driver. Try and switch up the line in 3 and 4. It works there if you try and go to that midline. Not so much in 1 and 2 where you have to try and keep yourself behind the car in front and let it roll in the center. Try and get a launch off the corner to then hope you can get side by side off into 3.
And you can see driving in right to the back bumper there as he tried to make a move even further behind there. Kamer actually had gotten to the inside of Cato in that blue and black car of Cato, and then the very light blue and white 8 machine of Kamer. He had the inside lane open, stuck a nose in there, just wasn't able to carry that speed off of the corner, and that's why he wasn't able to complete that pass. But if these battles continue to range on, you'd think we're 1 lap off of the restart, but this time by 9 laps going to be complete from Phoenix Raceway. Cadell continuing to stretch his lead to now nearly a second up at the front of the field. It sits at 8/10 this time by.
The driver to keep an eye on at this point through the field on top of Andrew Friedosh. Sam Nieto right now is the fastest car on the track in the 28 5s and 4s at the moment. He wants to go and go fast. +4 already from the drop of the green flag. He was also the fastest, mind you, in practice. So he's shown speed throughout the race. Meanwhile, Cato's up the track.
Yeah, Cato pushes up. This is what almost bit him the last lap, and this time it actually will because the 8 car is on through. So Kamer takes that spot away, and another car challenging to the bottom now in the 25 of Brian Chambliss. So the 12 is side by side. There's that open dog leg all the way, nearly to the inside wall. Making that move is Chambliss. He's even going to duck those left side tires below the yellow line in the corner. It is a good fight back from Cato, but once again dies in turn 4, and that's 2 spots lost in 2 laps.
Yeah, now he's in trouble because he originally got that top line to work when he was single file. The thing is, now, taking a look at how he's been driving these lines, he's having to lift so much off the gas that he's nearly plowing down the wall in turn 4. That in turn means that middle line advantage talked about, if you're able to wheel it well enough, that goes away with the corner speed and takes away the difference you can have by pinching the driver on the bottom down to force them to lift. So Ross Cato at this point needs to find a way to get to the bottom side, or else he's going to keep on dropping. He has a teammate to help him get that spot.
Everybody with the exception of Steve Durham still on the lead lap in this race. He has dropped significantly off after he opted to not take to the grid with everybody else. So he started from behind and again is probably just trying to run this one out and have some fun and stay out of the way in the last race of this 2020 campaign. watching your race leaders now for the first time this evening actually start to get a little bit of separation. And listen, they're still pretty tight. That's maybe 2-3 car lengths at most in between them if they had been all stacked up on one another. So Eberhardt has actually been able to reel Cadell back in. I really thought that that gang of the cars fighting was going to allow Cadell to pull away if Eberhardt got roped into it. He did not. And that advantage that I thought was going to grow up to a second plus now sits at 3/4 of a second that time through. So he's not gaining on Cadell a ton, but Eberhardt is certainly lurking. Winner from last week at Dega would be looking for a third win of the season.
Yeah, absolutely at this point. And I almost have to wonder, too, if Eberhardt might be thinking big picture here. Don't push too hard on the equipment, burn up your tires, because if you burn up your equipment too much of this track with how hot it can get here and how the nature of the track is, you have the chance to fall off like a rock before you get to the pit stop window. So right now, Daniel, I think at this point is thinking a little bit big picture while dealing with that arrow and saying, may as well not try and send it off into the corner too hard, save it as much as I can, allow Cadell to lead his laps and see if Cadell ends up burning up his equipment trying to keep this gap.
And you have to make these machines last. I mentioned 150 laps. It's funny, of course, 153 miles, the distance in this NPHBOD.org 150, 50 miles shorter than that race at Talladega was. But the only reason we raced so long into the night at Talladega was because of caution flags due to incidents. This Phoenix race, if it went green, would take longer to complete at 150 miles than Talladega would have at 200, simply because, of course, it is a slower speed racetrack. These drivers top it out down the front straightaway off the one, but 150, maybe 155 if you're really hauling miles per hour. So it does take some finesse. You're losing some 40 to 50 miles an hour nearly in the corners. And that means that you're going to be wearing on the tires, wearing on the brakes, heating it up. And, you know, it feels like that we've got a good groove going, only 18 laps in though.
Yeah, and that was to be expected. Talked about a little bit in the pre-race. If you get to about 15 laps, that's where everything spreads out, and that's exactly what it's gone to. Drivers spread themselves out to get themselves a rhythm together. And this is now where the driver skill starts to come in, as talked about a little bit, to see who falls off, who pushed their equipment too much in the short run, and who's up for grabs for potential opportunities to be passed. Galen Gidman, for example. He's now under attack by Scott McClendon. Curious to see if McClendon can move up one position here.
Is Scott McClendon somebody else who has had flashes of brilliance this season? I mean, you know, many a times one of the fastest cars in practice sessions with some good qualifying efforts, and just hasn't really gotten the results that I think he probably deserved. We mentioned that he tied last week, gaining 2 spots in the championship with Kyle Kamer for second in the points. Right now, Kamer outrunning him, so McClendon would finish third in the championship if it were to finish as they run now. But he has had, you know, 3 top 5 finishes, 5 top 10 finishes, but has not been able to find victory lane. And I feel like that 22 car has deserved it on at least 1 or 2 occasions, and he is stuck in traffic right now. He's either going to pass Gidwin or get passed by Farinash. We'll see, because the 88's right on this duo.
Andrew Farinash right now 1/10 of a second quicker last time by than the race leader. He's just methodically been going through the field, started at the rear end of the grid, as he's already secured that championship. At this point, some drivers do that to have a bit of fun. And Farinash, he's wanting to try and have fun and have that challenge, I think, of going through the field and see, can he try and pull off a victory from the tail end of the field and get to the front. He's still got a few more cars at least to catch up to in a minimum of 4.4 seconds, but we've seen many times Andrew is capable of that, especially at this type of racetrack and the speed he's shown before in the past in RSR competition.
Yeah, normally, I mean, we're pretty used to him blitzing the field on his
Shameless in a wall.
The 25 car up on the outside. You see the 19 machine now going to get on to buy him. Shameless was P6 at the line, but he completely missed turn 1, just overdrove it, was able to keep it out of the fence. And we'll get a look at the replay here. So here's coming off of turn 4. Before all of this happens, I thought maybe he caught the fence, but he's at speed here. Does he nick it on quarter entry? No, he just completely drove it in way too hard. And of course, when you have a hard braking track like this, Justin, it's very easy to jump the cushion like that, if you will, and get out of the groove. But I mean, that's like a split second, a tenth of a second, 2/10 of a second too late on the brakes, and that's how deep you end up in the corner. He's lucky that thing didn't end up in the fence.
Yeah, I thought that was already. That's how high up. Usually if you're that high up on this racetrack, you're likely hitting the safer barrier. It was a heck of a job to keep it off the safer barrier, but as you said, just pushed a little too much in the braking zone to a point where I think it wheel hopped and he was having to fight the car so much that it was getting loose under braking. And it ended up costing him a few positions. Speaking of positions, looks like the lead might be up for grabs.
Daniel Eberhard has been able to pull away just a bit from Washington, so he is the first and clear challenger to Jonathan Cadell for the race lead. Cadell started this one on pole position, got that 28.065. That was good. He was also a top 5 car in practice, so it has been consistent speed across the board for his Toyota Supra. But here comes the 90 car looking to the inside. It won't happen on lap 26. But as they start to close on lap traffic, will that be a factor?
It depends on where they reach the traffic. If they pass by the dog leg, not a big deal. If they go in the corner, though, that's where there's the chance of it getting dicey. But here's the thing with the space in the dog leg. It allows some opportunities. That time, it got a little bit closer than expected.
And the 02 is going to just go way up and out of the way to allow these cars to get on through. The 98 David Washington third also able to get on by. So that's going to be the play it safe game. He probably, I think, damaged his own car getting right up on the wall. But the race leaders had plenty of space, and I'm sure they appreciated it. Washington now, though, closing the distance. Let's watch the dog leg here. Everybody going to cut it down. Eberhard not as aggressive as they thought he may have been, but really didn't have the speed at a turn number 2. To make that dive down to the bottom. And that's all fair game. I know it's a yellow line, but we're not at Talladega anymore. It is all in play. So let's see how aggressive they get, and if Eberhard wants to make a move sooner rather than later. Now seeing that Washington started to creep back in from third.
Cadell seems to be struggling just a little bit in the braking on entry at the moment, where he's getting a little bit higher up off that yellow line. He's been also trying to get that middle line to work in 3 and 4. But eventually something's going to give at this point, because Cadell is fighting this thing as hard as he can. That time, he was near sideways in front.
He was. I mean, these guys are really starting to push it up at the front of the field, and I thought both of those cars were so close, nearly got in the fence that time. But at 4, the Donnie looking again, but now it's Cadell who uses the dog leg, swinging to the inside to stay ahead, take that run away. It is going to hurt him a little bit, I think, into turn 3, and it's so shallow there that when you go down on that apron like that, you really have to get back up to the wall, let that car settle for that brief moment before you start to turn it back in, or it is going to push way up. So that 69 car did a good job, and here's the 90 again, looking to the bottom. It is a 3-way battle for the race lead at Phoenix, working lap 31 of 150.
And at this point, Cadell might have to try and adjust the brake bias at this point, maybe a couple clicks back, because eventually he's going to end up overrunning that braking zone. He's going as hard, as deep as he can at this point. And I don't blame him at this point, knowing that the tires are starting to go off. Play defense. Force the drivers to try and use up their equipment to get a pass done at this point. He's the only one out of the 3-2 here, Evan, that's willing to use that dog leg at this point with how the tires have gone.
And I wonder if that's going to be the issue here for the Nani. We thought that that was the issue for Cadell. Again, he pulled out, was pretty comfortable, 8/10, 9/10 out in front, and thought that that would have been his opportunity to stroll away after he was able to hold off that lap 1 challenge from Eberhard. But instead, now Eberhard reeled him in. We thought maybe it was going to be a change, and who knows, maybe this is Eberhard having eaten away at that equipment a little bit, chasing him down, or it's the fact that it's a little bit tough to pass when you're right on somebody's bumper like this without actually just moving him up and out of the way. And listen, I have no doubt Daniel Eberhardt would move somebody for the race win on a Monday night, but I don't know if it would necessarily happen at lap number 34 of 150. So maybe that's why this battle continues on. They're not allowing the rest of the field to close in. Sam Nieto's losing time on this group from 4th on back, so that's not a worry. So it is a 3-horse race up front. Still Cadell, Eberhardt, and Washington running 1, 2, 3, exactly how they started this race.
Well, back to the theory once again, yeah. With the arrow, it can get very difficult to try and get a pass done unless you absolutely send it in or risk contact or force a mistake. Has a chance right here, though, with a bit of a mistake.
Ganani car's going to look to the inside. Here's his opportunity. Side by side, race lead, lap 35, and it just died out before they got to turn 3. It looked good for Cadell. He got the nose to the inside, but he didn't have the speed down the back stretch, and Cadell holds him off, I think, knowing that he can get away a little bit with not having to block the bottom because he's better than half a lane up, so he can leave that little bit for the Nani to play with without really being all that concerned.
Yeah, but at this point, Eberhardt, I think, knows that he's getting held up at this point. Trying every trick in the book. He's not being patient anymore. He's trying to push as hard as he can to make something go.
He really wants this move to happen now, and here may be his best opportunity yet. To the inside in turn number 1. It's Eberhardt low, Cadell on the outside. The 69's going to have the better speed off of the corner, but it's going to be Eberhardt way down to the dogleg. He'll come up a half a car length advantage, and in the run to turn 3, he tries to get all the way clear. Can Jonathan Cadell fight back? He keeps a nose. Great action for the race lead.
It's going to come down to the braking into turn 1.
Still there, the 69 washes up the hill, and there it is for the first time. New race leader at lap number 38, Daniel Eberhardt back on top. What a few weeks it's been. The winner at Auto Club on January the 13th, nearly a winner at Rockingham the week following, a win at Talladega last week, and leading now at Phoenix. Daniel Eberhardt's been putting his right foot down in the second half of this year.
Yeah, it's just been a stellar past couple weeks, to say the very least, for Daniel Eberhardt. Especially when it comes to super speedway racing, with that close finish, with success across the entire iRacing sim, winning thousands of dollars. There's just this past weekend. It's just been that type of a month if you've been Daniel Eberhardt so far. I'd have a smile on my face if I was him at this point. And now, I definitely have a smile right now because he just pulled away another 2 car lengths this past lap. Now the focus is on, can Washington force Cadell to open up the bottom?
Yeah, Cadell's been, trying to make this last as long as he can, and I think he did a pretty good job when he was under fire there to not overdrive, trying to block. I mean, he could have, hung that car low off the corner and really tried to make a mess out of it, but did not do so. More lap traffic on the outside. It'll be the 54 Mosier. They're able to get on through relatively easy. Did catch him at a little bit of a tough spot, but it is all going to be okay. And Cadell nor Washington gain or lose anything on one another. But I think, Cadell can be in this one for the long haul. And Justin, we talk about a 150-lap race. We kind of blink our eyes and we're at lap 41 now. Would this be a 2-stop possibility where, lap 50 would kind of be the benchmark, or are drivers more so thinking to go further than that?
I think back to the Cup race for RSR, for the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, I should say. And the thought process was back then, drivers tried the 2-stopper. I wouldn't be surprised to see a few teams try that this time. They can make it on fuel on a 1-stopper, or easily. The fuel goes up to 90 laps. But the tire degradation is something that can be the difference between winning or losing tonight's race. So we'll have to wait and see. It'll be an indicator if we start seeing drivers on lap 49 or the start of lap number 50 that we'll see a lot of the drivers go into 2-stop strategies. Or we'll see the drivers try and roll the dice and go for one less pit stop. Mind you, you do risk going a lap down on the 2-stopper compared to the 1-stopper since, well, you fall about a lap and a half behind the race leader if you pit.
And we'll see if these drivers want, or I guess the decision is, if it's obvious one way or another, if, everybody's going to kind of agree and, if we'll have those outliers. So we mentioned it's the last race of the year. So it's not like, well, I'm running in P5 or P6 or whatever. I guess I could get a good points finish. I mean, maybe that battle for second and third in the championship can be one of value, just simply for bragging rights and whatnot. But for everybody else, I guess if you're not going to be going for the race win, then you're, the 20 cars or whatever that have raced this season that aren't racing tonight. The 20 that are here want to go for the race win. So maybe that leads drivers into wanting to take a swing for the fences. But, we'll see. We don't know yet. And, some drivers, you try to get an idea of what kind of pit strategy they're going to take and a little bit tight-lipped about it. So we'll find out how this thing shakes out. But you're right. If it is going to be a two-stop strategy, we're about 5 laps away from kind of hitting that rate on the money. And we would get an indication that drivers would start pitting. There is a battle for P7. Teammates going at it. You'll catch the tail end of it. Galen Gidman passing Ross Cato right there to get around him. This 12th car has been struggling second half of this run.
Yeah, I think might have burned off the right front a little bit at this point, especially trying to get the high side. On top of that, having to deal with the potential looseness at this point. So it's just not been a good stint for Ross Cato. But here's an interesting thing for the drivers to think about too. In the Cup races just about a year or so ago, there was massive amounts of fall-off at this point, about a second and a half, 2 seconds. We've only seen about just reaching 1.1 seconds of fall-off for the race leaders right now in tire degradation. So that is definitely going to factor in how these strategies play out for these drivers today.
And we'll see now as more lap traffic gets mixed into the fray. The 42 of Tom Morano most recently getting to put down by some lap drivers and, give a big shout out to, as we did at the start of the year, to Tom Morano for partnering with us in this series to support the Nevada Partnership for Homeless Youth. We'll wait until the end of the night this evening to kind of tally it all up and get an actual number for everybody. But Tom has dedicated, to donate to the Nevada Partnership for Homeless Youth for every green flag lap that is run over the course of this 10-race season. And so even more incentive for this race to stay clean and green throughout. But just wanted to give Tom and that 42 and his entire group another call for being a big part of this championship, as we now see if Stanford can make the move on Cato. In front of them, Gidman's already pulled away.
Yeah, right now Stanford, I think, is just going to have to get a couple laps. You see right there with the amount of wheel, he's really trying to struggle on that entry at the moment. Might be feeling the car want to snap around a little bit with how the track is. So he's having to fight this car a little bit on every single entry. Look at this right here, a bit more smoother into turn number 1, but he's trying to send it so hard into turn 3 to gain some time that it ends up potentially losing time because he's having to get off the gas and fight the wheel instead of, say, carrying the momentum.
And just looking through, Frenage, who continues his kind of march towards the front. I mentioned that we're used to him kind of blitzing his way through and that maybe it had taken him a little bit longer as the 2-car. Sam Nieto is in at lap 51. That would be an indicator of a 2-stop strategy for that Ford. So he's down to pit road, but Frenage all of a sudden is 4th on track. And not only does he have the track position, that's one thing, but you can make passes on cars that are slower than you, and if we're going to be frank, that's most of the field. Andrew Frenage is very, very good. He can compete in any league, any official, racing that he wants to. But it's not just that, Justin. He's gone to P4, but he's only 2.2 seconds off of the race lead. That's normally what kills you. You can be 5th, but 6 seconds back. Not the case, and he's all over David Washington.
Remember when we last checked in on him too, Evan? He was 4 seconds back. He's closed in 2 seconds in the span of about 20, 30 laps. So he's slowly been closing the gap as the fastest car on the long run. But this is not a surprise. Andrew's been able to do this race in, race out, where he's able to save the tires the best out of the field. And in turn, when you are able to make sure you have the best tire wear, you're going to have the best lap times on the long run.
Here he is on the inside. They almost made contact at turn 4. It was awfully close with Washington kind of pinned up against the wall. But without much surprise, there is very little fight back. He held the outside, and Andrew Frinage now strolls into a race-high P3. He did lose a little bit of time to Daniel Eberhardt. His last lap was a 29.5. It was a 0.2 for Eberhardt up front, so actually executing this pass on Washington did cost him a little bit of time, still only with a 29.4 that time through. So he'll drop off another 0.2 of a second of the race lead, but now that he's got the clean air, back with that baby blue number 88 painted up tonight. Let's watch as he tries to drive through. It would appear the race leaders and a majority of the field opting to go for a one-stop because we saw Sam Nieto come down. He gave up a lot of track position. He's a lap down because of it, P16, but there was no influx of cars down to pit lane after he made his call.
Yeah, and when looking again at the tire fall-off, the strategy call was go for the one-stop because if you split up the middle, it simplifies the strategy. For Sam Nieto, I think it was the thought process of trying something different to see, will this work? And I'm curious to see if he can try and make it work, because if he does follow that strategy pattern, he'd end up with at least 25, 30 lap fresher tires than the rest of the field on the second and final stint for his pit stop call at this point. So have to see how it works out, but it's going to take time. Speaking of time, Cadell has been losing it because he's now a 10th a second each and every lap now off of Eberhardt, give or take at the moment. He's just been fighting that car.
It has been rough, and we saw this even with Cato. Drivers just start to lose the handling on these cars. We talked a lot about it earlier this season when we got the new tire model on the iRacing service mid-season, and maybe it's still a little bit of a learning period, but these tires are a lot more sensitive. You want to talk about hot conditions out in the Arizona desert, 117 degrees track temp right now. Not insane, but I mean that's still hot. And again, with a heavy braking and those kind of slow speed low banks, so you don't have a lot of lateral grip corners like we do here. It certainly does take a toll, and that's why I think we have the likes of Eberhardt, Cadell, and Frinage. 1, 2, 3 is guys with a lot of seat time that know how to weather that storm.
And give a shout out on Cadell at this point here, Evan, as well, because this is his best run so far of the season, in my opinion, because he's got it a top 5 before, yes, but it's been up and down in terms of performances in this Xfinity car in the Icebreaker Winter Series. Right now, he's looking like he has the chance, at the pace he's been going, to be potentially a second top 5 of the season type of car tonight.
And he is 1.2 seconds behind Eberhardt. That is actually the exact same distance in which he is ahead of Frinage. So we'll see if that 88 machine's able to reel him in. Of course, that kind of march to the front has been slowed a little bit, but Frinage was the fastest car last time by. It was an interval of about like 2/100ths of a second. So, Daniel Eberhardt still has speed. So you look at this, 61 laps into this race, closed it in on the halfway point. If these drivers all stay on the same pit strategy, and if they're able to keep this same speed throughout the run on the second run of the night, then Justin, these pit stops may be the determining factor. And does that mean somebody, depending on how far you can go, 75 laps a good distance, as is, the short pit or staying out a little bit longer could be the decision maker. Because right now, it's kind of a toss-up up here. Frinage, I think, is the fastest, but not by a lot. And he's working with that disadvantage. So if somebody like an Eberhardt knows that, goes for the undercut to try to build more, a cushion out of the pit stops, then that 88 kind of has to double down on, well, I'm faster, but I'm further behind, and maybe that's the key to getting this thing done.
That's exactly what I was starting to think about in terms of the strategy calls, and I would say there's the chance that might exactly work. Again, though, you have to remember they are in the same camp, essentially, as teammates. So they'll be probably thinking about trying to synchronize things as well as a group as well, because right now, technically, they've got 4 of their Alliance cars inside the top 5 that we've seen many times, Evan, throughout the season go in on a stagger within about 2-3 laps.
And you look at the, starting position compared to running position. Eberhardt started second, he leads. Cadell started first, he's second. David Washington's fourth, he started third. Kamer's where he started in fifth. Gidman up one spot to P6. There's only really a couple of big movers. Fernandez, who's 20th, started 20th, I guess you should say, and who runs in third right now. Also a call out to Eric Stanford. Mentioned the 19 machine almost in passing a little bit as he was, sometimes the second or third car to battle, but he's done a very good job. The Club New York driver started this race in the 14th position. He runs in 7th. Also, Gael Brooks started 17th. He runs in 11th in the 71 car. So there are some drivers who have made headway, but it has been, very small dents. The top 10 cars have held pretty strong in this opening half.
Yeah, they have looked very consistent, to say the very least, and that's, again, to be expected. It's a track where you need to be consistent to be up at the front. If you struggle to have consistency, then you're likely towards the back. If you have back slides like that with Stanford a bit off the corner of turn number 4, though, that consistency will go away pretty quickly. Some of these drivers really dealing with the tires. Cadell starting to fall off a cliff in third position, just got reeled in for that spot, for second rather.
Yeah, he loses about a tenth to Eberhardt every single time by, but I think a lot of this is more so Freitas being faster than Cadell falling back to the 88. There you see Sam Nieto, who got the fresher tires. Again, he made his pit stop, some 15 laps ago, so he'll be faster here, and this is going to put a pause on things for the 88 of Freitas because the two slides up in between them in 3 and 4. He'll now make his run off of the corner, and Sam Nieto will get on by. He's going to have to get all the way up to Eberhardt to get his lead lap back, Justin. That's the point you made earlier. We were talking about pit stops and early pitting is, well, if you pit, you lose a lap, and that's the concern for the two, as the yellow right now would hurt him. He would be the lucky dog. He is one of 4 cars a lap down. He, Krug, Kaczynski, and Morano all down 1. But now that he's on through, battle for second can continue. Cadell under fire from the race winner this season of Andrew Freitas 6 times over. That car has been in victory lane.
It's just been domination, and mind you, Cadell has been in the fence. That car, again, has just fallen apart. And now with that aerodynamic damage, it's going to make it much more difficult to carry speed down the straights and get to the corners. Made it look like he was standing still for a moment in the dogleg to lose second position.
No shock that Freitas was able to get on by, make the pass, and in the end, relatively painless. Again, I think that's the same thing that we saw when he got up to David Washington, that he kind of knew, listen, I can pinch this guy down, I can, try to, run in the middle of a lane and mess things up, but at the end of the day, I'm only going to be hurting myself because I'll just slow me down more, and he's going to get me anyway. Sometimes, race cars faster than you, and good call there by Cadell to be patient after leading a lot of the laps early in this one. Now he's fallen to a low of P3, and he is also no longer, I think, the leader of the most laps this evening. If not yet, it'll be awfully close because Daniel Eberhardt at 34 right now out in front, I think, has taken that from him.
Yeah, at this point, but as we talked about, though, Evan, with it being the last race of the season, you're focused on one thing: get the checkered flag. And that's what these drivers have been fighting for all night long so far, and been doing so in a clean and efficient manner. No one's been over aggressive or trying to pinch one another too aggressively at this point. It's just been clean and very calm, knowing that at this point they're racing for the pure fun of the sport and sportsmanship on the track, as Kaczynski is down to the bottom of the racetrack, appears to have gotten loose on the circuit in 14th.
The 30 car was pretty beat up. He had actually gotten into the wall the lap prior to this. As you see him come down pit road, it was lap 69 crossing over to 70, but he actually got into the wall. You can see the damage is already on the car, I think, in this shot. We'll see if it is indeed. There it is here now. See, the car's clean. He's running into behind the 25 and chainless. They're going to come through turn number 4. Right there is just a little bit of contact, but as he pulls it off the wall, it kind of snaps on him. He ends up in the inside wall. No caution. Again, that car never actually spun, but that's how he got damage. So then he decided to bring it down to the pit lane and that may in effect end his night as he is in the stall looking for repairs. He was also on the inside of the racetrack as the leaders were coming. So Trevor Valderrama, who was another lap car, ended up 3 wide. He actually caught the fence again, going on the very outside to avoid that. So that's one of those situations where, it's a long green flag run, everybody's strung out, but Justin, you get one car hits the fence, all of a sudden you're 3 wide, and next thing you know, anything could happen. So I think we're lucky to get through that without incident as Andrew Friedage is down to pit road right on the money as he takes 75 and is halfway home. He's in for his 1 stop.
So as to be expected for a lot of these drivers, they're trying to split it right down the middle in terms of strategy. 75 the stints. And now it becomes the question, when do the other drivers elect to pit at this point? Cadell coming down this time. Eberhardt stays out for an extra lap.
He's going to stay out, and we thought that maybe these would be the cars out in front that would short pit, but it's going to be Friedage. He is probably going to end up as the race leader in this thing once this cycle cycles through, and I don't know if that's going to be a race-winning situation for the 90 of Eberhardt. Another trip, though, around turn 4. He doesn't pit, as you see Cadell now into the box.
And Eberhardt might be thinking, let's get the freshest tires we can right now out of those drivers. Yes, he's sacrificing lots of time, potentially about a second a lap or so. But the thought process might be try and gain it back towards the end of the run. It's going to be a curious call. And finally, he's going to come down, would be about a 2 to 3 lap difference on the tires.
Maybe it's lucky, but he's in at lap 77. He gets it down to pit road speed of 45 miles an hour. And now we'll see how this thing cycles out. Again, giving up was last lap time was a 36.5, or I think that one actually clouded because he actually crossed the finish line. So 29.5, more accurate for him. The best lap that he put out was a 28.3. So you're looking at just a second and some change of fall off, but 2-3 lap difference, that is more, 2-3 seconds, more of an advantage than he had over Friedage. So he'll go for the 4 tires, no doubt. Expect the rest of the field now to start to cycle through. Some of them might stay out to try to catch, a caution flag and be advantage of this, but it looks like the overwhelming decision was the 1-stop call. And as Daniel Eberhardt blends back up and onto the racetrack, Andrew Friedage is already through the dogleg and off into turn 3. So it is going to be the 88 who probably cycles back to the race lead.
And remember, Sam Nieto's one of those drivers on a different strategy call as Washington ducks down to the pit lane. For that 2 machine we talked about with Nieto, the gap, going to be curious to see what he can do, because here's the thing. He's only 8 seconds ahead right now of Andrew Friedage, and the gap has the chance to close in pretty quickly. Already on much older tires, so it was a gamble to try that call. We'll have to see how it works out, though, as he passes by, Washington.
And of course, even if he wanted to stay out, I don't think, even if Sam Nieto, having pitted at about lap 50, wanted to, kind of be like, all right, well, I made the wrong call. I'm just going to try to stretch it to the end. Even if that was possible, Friedage is still going to get him. So it was a worthwhile attempt for Nieto. Sam Nieto had speed. He was the only driver all night to put down a 27-second lap, but it came in practice, a 27.982. That was better than pole time, a 28.065 by Cadell. He wasn't able to replicate that in the qualifying session, and the strategy is not going to put that 2-car in a position to fight unless he gets some help. There's still a long way to go, just past the halfway point in this race. 70 laps to go as of the last time through.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the math in my head to see how this will work out interval-wise, even with the second pit stop. It's going to be difficult to get back to even where he was before he elected to come down to the pit lane. So with the tire fall-off, it just hasn't worked out the way I think he was hoping it would on the racetrack today for this call to work.
Well, let's take a look as this thing starts to cycle through. at our NPHY midway race break. And again, awaiting a lot of these cars to still come down pit road. But Sam Nieto currently in the lead. Really the only driver of note who took the one-stop strategy. He's about to lose the lead lap, or I guess the race lead status, sorry, to Andrew Freitas, who is second. He leads by just over 2 seconds ahead of Daniel Eberhardt. That's because he pitted before him. So that's Eberhardt, the Audi car, not fighting with McClendon. That's not for position. Eberhardt is third, and Cadell, no surprise, ends up third. It's fourth right now, but that's how he will cycle through. Then you got Galen Gidman P5. Kyle Kamer runs in sixth right now. He is fighting with David Washington. That is for position, as the 98 car is going to go around him on the outside. So Washington jumps up to sixth. Cameron will fall to 7. All of that going on ahead of Eric Stanford, who's 8th. The Ross Cato, final car on the lead lap right now, P9. And that means the first car lap down is Brian Chambliss. You can see him right on the bumper of Freitas, P2.
Scott McClendon's back in 11th position. Just got passed by Eberhardt, this time by with Steve Sowa in 12th position. Kyle Brooks is in 13th. +4 overall in the night, while John Rodden is the last driver 1 lap down on the circuit in the FedEx machine. Bobby Krug is 2 laps down in 15th position, with Tom Morano in 16th. Michael Mosier this time by making another position on the track to 17th, with Trevin Valderrama in 18th position. Steve Durham is in 19th, 4 laps down, and in 20th, also 4 laps down, is Kaczynski as he gets passed by Krug. Bobby Terrell did not make the start.
Look top to bottom at your NPHY midway race break. NPHY is the most comprehensive service provider for the thousands of young people experiencing homelessness in our community, providing access to life-changing services for homeless youth 24 hours a day at virtually every street corner in Southern Nevada. NPHY's wraparound programs stabilize young people's lives, meeting their immediate needs and providing a safe, supportive environment and a path to self-sufficiency. Their individualized, holistic services empower young people to not only achieve long-term independence, but to craft the futures they want for themselves. Go to nphy.org for more information on how you can volunteer or donate to help make a difference. So the battle for the race lead, here it comes. We've been watching it close in. Sam Nieto, with about 25-30 lap older tires, is not going to be a match for the series champion. A little bit tight that time on the look to the inside, but it will happen here. Freitas with the inside positioning in turn 1, back in front. But first time this evening, he'll get to the top of the scoring pylon.
Didn't make it easy that time. Held on just that little slight bit, but at this point it was to be expected right now. But Daniel Eberhardt, mind you, is still 2 seconds back and closing in as well on those couple lap fresher tires. And we know how Eberhardt has been on that short to medium run, especially in the second half of the season, to try and battle with this 88.
And now this is going to continue. Nieto will fall to the clutches of Eberhardt, and then the clutches of Cadell. And again, this is all assuming that he would be able to go 100 laps to the end of the race. If he does have to come down and to make it a true 2-stop strategy, Sam Nieto is going to drop it off of the lead lap and probably still finish this race individually not all that bad off. He started 11th, so he's way in the positive right now. If he pitted, ended up a lap down, finished 12th or something, it would still be, I think, a relatively, okay night. He wanted to make the gamble, obviously, and try to go for the race win, so not ending how he wanted it to. But it really won't be like a big fall like he lost anything. The Nani car to the inside. Eberhardt timed that one oh so well on that dog leg, and it was not as close as Freitas was, as Daniel Eberhardt now back into second. He has closed on Freitas by about 0.3 of a second, trying to keep this race interesting.
Yeah, at this point, he's committed to the strategy at this right now. If he was hoping for a caution, if you're Nieto, that opportunity is just about done at this stage in time. So it's just not worked out, I think, for Nieto if he wanted that caution flag, but he is at this point stuck on that 2-stop situation. Eberhardt, meanwhile, I'm curious to see if he can keep on closing. As long as he can get through the traffic well, he might be able to close this gap, getting side by side with cars onto corner entries. Not the best way to do so, but had to get around him somehow.
And it's just all about finding a way to get the job done. Nieto will sit in third for just a little bit here because he's got quite a gap back to Jonathan Goodell. That's about 5 seconds before he has to worry about that. Still fighting going on for P5, 6 positions up for grabs throughout the field. 19 of the 20 cars that started this race still on the lead lap as Frenage works at lap number 94 of 150. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside, and when we come back, we'll be within 50 laps to go from Phoenix. At 50 laps to go on the season, the champ is out in front as Andrew Frenage is looking for a 7th win of the year. Back live from Phoenix Raceway, and we are under caution flag conditions in the NPHY.org 150. Just as we stepped aside, thought that we had set up for this race to go the distance, and all of a sudden a problem with the 22 of Scott McClendon. You'll see it here on the replay. We had just saw, you're actually seeing the 2 car right now with Sam Nieto, who had dropped back into 3rd position. But watch the 22, there he is right in front of him. Scott McClendon, who had been running, in a good position, been packed really without issues on his own, is going to come at a turn 4 right here. Again, this happened just as we stepped aside. And as he gets a little bit too high up, he gets a little bit sideways, and he's going to have an issue in turn 4 the next time by. So we'll take another trip on through. It is going to pick up Sam Nieto, though, who was running in 3rd, who we had just been talking about, but watch the 22 off of the corner here.
Yeah, already trying to get away from some of the drivers here, but you see the difference in the lines the last time around and this time by, much higher up off the group of the yellow line, right into the end of the safer barrier. Nowhere for Ronan to go, and Nieto spins around trying to dodge. That ends up also giving some damage to the 2, mind you, as both of them were sliding around him and Ronan. Nowhere for Nieto to go as he tried to dodge all of that carnage.
And Nieto ends up a little bit better off. Ronan really got a good hit there. But watch Sam Nieto here as he spins out and does make contact. It's all on the avoidance, though. You'll see McClendon out the windshield right there. Smacks the wall, and the car bounces back up, so he doesn't know where to go. He gets sideways. He spins. He wasn't going to hit anything till right there. He hit Ronan, who actually got tagged by McClendon. So that is why he has some damage. But he was pretty brief in his pit stop. But the race leaders all came down to pit road. Obviously, the decision going to be 4 tires and fuel, so they all get freshened up. But it is going to be a competitive run to the end of this race, actually. Just now double-checking with Frenage, yeah, it was the 4-tire call. But his advantage time-wise is what has been erased. So Eberhardt will be right there. Cadell will be right there. And they're going to need to get him, I think, off of the restart to make this interesting. Freenos still the better long-run car, but it is not as big of a margin by how much better he is compared to everybody else that maybe we've seen in some of the races this year. So these guys have a real shot at getting this thing.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if Daniel Eberhardt can fight as hard as he can to make Freenos work for this race tonight. Because we've seen him do it at Auto Club, for example. I think Daniel's got the speed to do it tonight, for sure as well. We'll have to wait and see, though, if he can get this job done, Freenos, or if Eberhardt can get that lead back.
And of course, you know, what can Cadell do, or a Gidman even? You know, as we try to see, you know, a driver who has not been in this thing throughout, you know, a consistent driver, you know, be a surprise. You know, Freenos, Eberhardt, Cadell, they've all got speed. Washington was kind of an on-the-cusp driver. He's fifth. I mentioned Gidman because he's before. All of these drivers had a good opportunity to run. We'll see if they're going to be able to challenge or if Freenos runs away. But this restart going to be ever so critical as the base car dives down and in. The 88 is in control from the front row. Green flag in the air. 49 laps to go at Phoenix.
And a good start for Freenos already, taking that quick top line away and getting right to the bottom line as quick as he can. But if you're Gidman, you're hoping to clear by Cadell. Remember, Cadell has that bit of damage on that he had to deal with on the right front fender. And up the track goes Gidman.
He is way out of the groove, so Cadell going to get on through. He'll maintain that third spot, and now the challenge is David Washington. Gidman gets the speed off of the corner, so he's able to get back to a small advantage. But Washington on the inside, fighting side by side. This fight's for fourth.
And right now, these drivers have shown that on that top line, on the short run, it's just not been working. Gidman way off the gas that time to give the spot. Here's the problem. When you have that happen, it opens up the door for another driver that sees an opportunity. That time, able to get clear with a bit of a pinch.
And the battle for the race lead also sees Eberhardt staying with Freenos, but unable to challenge. Yep, there's the shot there. A little bit of side-by-side of impact. Chambliss and Gael Brooks doing the battle. It simmers down as the 90 again sticks the left side tires below the apron. Anything they can get to try to help that car rotate in the corner. It claims to be 10 to 11 degrees of progressive banking, but man, does it not feel like anywhere near that much at that end of the racetrack, as these drivers really have to tiptoe it through. Freenos so far, though, perfect, and maybe without a mistake, it'll be awfully difficult for the 90 to find an opening.
Yeah, right now Eberhardt is actually getting a little bit later on the brakes, trying to close up this gap at the moment. The thing is, there's the saying, slow in, fast out. Freenos, with it being a bit more slower, is a bit more faster on the exits at this point. The way he's running the track, a bit of a bobble, though, from Freenos.
He did. He bobbled a little bit there, but the 90 machine, it wasn't in the right spot. If he needs to bobble on quarter exit, or he needs to miss a quarter exit, for the 90 to be able to get that run off of the corner and use either the back stretch in there for the dog leg or the run down the front straightaway to be able to get inside a position. You know, if he bobbles and is able to recover, he's going to be all right. You can see these top two now pulling away from the rest of the field. Cadell third, Washington hot on his heels for fourth. That battle is some 1 second off of these two up front.
Yeah, things are definitely getting heated up, to say the very least, but at this point, Eberhardt's really being very flirty with that yellow line. Last time by around in 1 and 2, he actually clipped the apron. That's not what you want to do. That's why he lost about a half a car length this time around the circuit. Because if you clip that part of the apron right there, you end up having to lift off, and there's the chance you can snap loose. Eberhardt that time avoided the clip.
He did, and this is going to be now, I mentioned early, some 30 laps into this race, but it was Daniel Eberhardt trying to chase down Jonathan Cadell, and he sat on the bumper, but couldn't get it done. And eventually he did. It did happen. But for the 90 machine, he sat there on the bumper for some time and wasn't able to make movement. I said, well, 30 laps into the race, probably not going to go for the bump and run, but I had no doubt that Daniel Eberhardt would do that if it would meant going to victory lane. And he has finished second or third so many times this year, even though he has been in victory lane twice to Freenage, that they'll stay clean, but he would really like to win this race. There's still a long way to go with 41 to go that time by. Maybe that's too early to use the Chrome Horde, but Eberhardt's going to weigh his options. How much longer does he think he can stick with him?
Well, that becomes the question of how hard is he working that equipment, because we know how Freenage is on the long run. The thing is, though, the difference is it's essentially a mid-run now for these cars with that second of fall off or so. So it's to the point where if Eberhardt's able to manage that, or if Freenage is able to do what he does and force drivers behind him to use up the equipment, then he's in the catbird seat. Or one of those driver, or Eberhardt, has the chance to take the catbird seat and put himself on it instead.
So we'll see if this Nani car has it, because it's going to be a two-horse race. We questioned, could Washington make the lead? He did, to third, though. So back to where he started this race. He was able to get around Cadell after restarting in P5. Did have been unable to, get anything off of the restart. So Washington did pick up, but here's the Nani now to the inside. They continue to pull away from everybody else, but we're still waiting for the Nani to take that little bit more.
Yeah, had a bit of an opportunity with Freenage sliding up the track there, but just couldn't take advantage once again. It's going to again come down to, if any of these drivers make a mistake, it could be dividends. A big run, though, for Eberhardt.
And he's on the bumper there. There's that physicality that we expect out of Eberhardt. He was right on the quarter panel, but wasn't able to move him up a little bit. That was kind of an awkward part of the racetrack to do it. You got to be careful when you're flirting with the left rear quarter panel of the race car like that. But it hurt him in the end, because now he's a car length and a half behind him.
And there may be people wondering, why not go lower down on the dog leg? Well, there's the risk of the car bottoming out right there. You see it slam down on the suspension. That's where there's the chance it can get very light. And when it gets light, that's where it can snap loose and turn dead left in towards the inside wall. So that's why some of these drivers have been very timid on going to that dog leg, and why Eberhardt didn't go lower than he did on that previous pass attempt.
And now he has to regroup, because the problem is he lost all of that really in half of the back straightaway. He was on that quarter panel through the dog leg, and by the time they got into turn 3, he found himself that car and a half, 2 car lengths off of the bumper. So that's how quick you lose it. If he still has the speed, it's going to take Eberhardt another 2-3 laps at minimum to actually get back into that position. Those are, those extra lengths, those... I don't know if I would necessarily call it a mistake, because you have to make an attempt to go for the race lead. But those are the things that you can't really get away with when racing somebody like Freenage. But to his credit, Eberhardt is not going down without a fight.
Eberhardt's actually the faster of the 2 cars at this point. He's actually getting held up a little bit. It's just the problem of he can't get the run to make the move. It's going to, again, require him to get a great run off of 2, get to the inside of Freenage, and make the pass. He's trying it again.
Here he is now to the dog leg on the back straightaway. He'll try to drive it in hard, and he's got a spot in turn 3. Eberhardt trying to go for the lead. He'll drive it in. A maybe contact in the center, as they're going to give it 110%. Freenage defending up top, stays in front for now, but for how long?
And the right front's crumpled up on Eberhardt's car. That might affect him on the aero and the handling off the corners.
They got so close that I didn't think they got into each other, but that crumpled up sheet metal on the right front for the Nani car would suggest otherwise. You can see it there where the hood reaches that side, that right front fender of the race car, a little bit of damage. So maybe leaned on each other a little bit there. It certainly looked like when he started to push up the hill that was going to be a lot harder a contact than it actually was. But now the Nani knows he can get there. He had a very, very good chance, wasn't able to execute. Now, next time, if he gets there again, he'll probably take that physicality up to the next level.
Yeah, indeed, but here's the thing, though. That damage is going to affect him a little bit down the straightaways, and at a track like Phoenix, yes, it's classified as a short track, but aerodynamics are so crucial to be able to have speed down those straightaways. And now Daniel Eberhardt doesn't have that advantage now in terms, or that equalization rather, of having the same type of aero situation as Andrew Freenach. That's going to make it that much more difficult.
And the Nani's still there. There is no traffic. That's another thing. Not that it had, been a factor in a lot of these. Only Kaczynski, but we're not going to see that thick lap traffic again. 50 laps, I don't think, quite long enough to get around to everybody. But how they navigate this 30 is going to be big. Here he is again. He likes that dog leg, Justin. He really hasn't attempted many of these moves to the inside. Right here at a turn 4 on the front stretch. He seems like the dog leg's where he wants to do it, but he got a little bit too much apron that time. Slid a little bit on exit, and that costs him.
Yeah, that time by losing nearly a full 10th. But here's the part where Eberhardt's been really good. 1 and 2. He's been getting just a bit more earlier on the gas on the corner exit to be able to use every part of the track limits all the way up to the outside wall and close up any sort of time he loses in 3 and 4 and reel back into then some by the time he reaches the entry the next time by.
I'm just so impressed that Daniel Eberhardt is able to take these swings and stay with him. So many times the story has been this year, but Freenach has been in victory lane as he'll dive to the inside again, but still come up short. But Freenach, a winner at Atlanta, Homestead, Mid-Ohio, Iowa, Chicago, Rockingham, and there's a shot to the bumper. Is that drivers have had opportunities, have been close. They've taken their shot, and they weren't able to do it, and that was it. That was kind of their one and done. So Eberhardt, with ample opportunity here, gave him a shot. You saw it there with the bumper camera. He knows that he has limited chances. Again, it's going to cost him time, though.
I think the amount of patience has just gone out the window, essentially. We've seen it with the battle before with Cadell, where it took him about 30 or so laps to get the job done to make the move. I think we're at that point again between him and Freenach.
Yeah, and for the Nani machine as well, I'm curious if he's going to start to, to change up that MO. Still, again, going down to the dog leg, get a little bit of time. But I wonder if, instead of being the aggressor, which is totally his style. I mean, that's exactly what we expected of Eberhardt, is to be the aggressor. He's not normally who will plant on your bumper and wait for you to mess up. That's kind of the MO of Andrew Freenach, is to wait for you to make a mistake and then, of course, try to capitalize on that. Nani's going to force the issue here. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. I know Phoenix is over a mile in length. I said it on the grid. But it races like a short track, and the fact that there's hard braking, slow corners, physicality can be a factor. And now inside of 25 laps to go, these two have pulled some 3 seconds ahead of third on the back, while still enthralled in this battle for the lead.
Yeah, 0.3 of a second quicker each and every lap as Eberhardt gets the apron this time by in 1 and 2. So they've just been the class of the field from green flag all the way up to this point, wherever they've been in the set field. It's just been that tough of a race tonight.
And we wait now as the Nani falls back. Maybe a brief pause as Freenach opens it up just a little bit, because on that last run, or I guess I should say, I can't say last run because it was the only run of the race, the long green flag run, right up to the pit stops. The 88 had eventually become fastest on the very long run, and that's why I said, coming to this most recent restart, that I thought if it was going to be Eberhardt or Cadell, Washington, whoever, that they would have had to make the pass rather quickly off of the restart, make him work at a disadvantage, because just because he, 2 100s, 3 100s faster than you per lap, maybe even more than that, that's not going to be enough to make it a walk in the park to pass.
And the O2 machine just hit the inside and outside walls a bit as he got lapped by Galen Gidman.
We're 3 wide here with a lot of traffic. 25 to the outside, Stanford to the inside. Cato going to go by as well. An awfully close thing, and that was the 02 speed. You see the 94 car on the inside. He just gave him too much space. Lap cars, it's not this lap. It's going to be in the next time by a battle with the 94. It's not for position, but he was in the racing line. He saw Gideon coming up. This is going to be it here. He sees Gideon coming up. So what does he do, Justin? He moves up to get out of the way. The problem is he gets up out of that dark area. He gets up into the light where the marbles are. And then next time right here, you'll see he moves up, but there's no grip up there. So as he tries to get out of the way, he has no grip. He's going to hit the wall, and it was so close right there. They may have got into each other. So he hits the wall, goes into the inside wall, and like I said, these things with lap cars can kind of form out of nowhere.
Yeah, that rubber is where a lot of the grip is, especially on the long run as the races progress. If you go outside of that, that's where you go into the dirt, the marbles, and where all the grip just disappears. That was the case there where it looked like lost the front grip, and it just took him off and sailed him off into the wall. As this has been progressing, though, it's now a half a second advantage, and the caution is out.
132, a spin. There's 2 cars involved. The Mosier, one of them. Steve Durham, the other. And this was contact that caused it. We'll take a look at the LSR TV replay. I don't know if there was a story behind this one, but you see Michael Mosier, the 54 car, a top 3 last week at Talladega. Durham on the bumper, and as they drive into 3, he gets absolutely dumped.
Wow, that was 2 to 3 car lengths back, and at this point, I think Durham just carried way too much speed. Was not expecting that. That was, I believe, for position in that case. So, I think just sent it a little bit too hard and wasn't expecting that amount of difference in speed in the corner apex and entry.
And I was looking back to see if there had been anything leading up to that. Those 2 cars that have been close with each other all run, but that's just either taking somebody out or missing the corner by a country mile, because Mosier had no chance there in the 54 car, and as expected, he claims responsibility for the incident. So your race leader is going to be back down to pit road. That gap the top 2 had built is evaporated once more, and we're inside of 20 to go. Does somebody dare go for 2 tires to get the track position?
On this amount of difference of tires of this track, my thought is no, because it will probably not work out with this amount of laps to go. If we get another yellow, there's the option of staying out and risking it there, but there's the chance you push up the hill. Andrew's off and away on 4.
It looked like he was on his own because he's in pit stall 20 after not qualifying. He'll round his way on through. Friedage beats the 90 of Everhart off of the pit lane, but David Washington, right side tires only, to be the first car off of pit road.
Well, that's a call and a half at this point. And this is a gamble to try and hope for clean air indoor. Maybe even caution, breed caution type of situation now if you're Washington. He's got that aero damage as well, remember, on the right front fender, really crumpled in right above the tire. So this is going to be a interesting gamble with this many laps to go.
And there's a lot of cars still in front of that 90 to Washington on the racetrack right now, but it is not for position. So Washington will be your race leader. Friedage is going to be alongside him in second on the 4. And I mean, there hasn't been a ton of fall off. When we were talking about the drivers on that one-stop strategy, the difference with the pit stops, you know, fast before, I guess what I'm trying to say, at the start of the run, to the pit stop point, you only dropped up about 1.2, 1.3 seconds for the very fastest cars. And it hasn't been that long of a run. So there's no doubt that David Washington is going to be slower than Andrew Friedage. But I think even with 4 tires, you're still going to be slower than him. So this is what I maybe expected somebody to do if we'd gotten a late race restart, or as I was mentioning, what they probably wanted to do in the last one, even on even, as the 98 machine is down pit road.
Wow.
So never mind then. David Washington. I was just about to say, I think that the gamble for the track position was the call, and he's going to pit and give it back up. Friedage now to the lead once more as the lights go on top of the pace car.
At this point here, Washington had something go on his pit box where he overran it by a little bit for him to have to come back down a second time to take left sides. Wow. In fact, he's taking the full 4-tire service at this point, so he might have had second thoughts about that strategy call, to say the very least, on that 20-lap difference before. Now, with 14 to go, see who's going to be the best of the best on 4 tires at the front.
So in the end, no changes. Freenaj, Eberhardt, front row, everybody on 4. You just subtract the P3 car out of it, so Cadell jumps to 3rd, Gidman jumps to P4. Pace car in this time. 14 laps to go from Phoenix. Green flag in the air, and it is no doubt a great jump for the 88.
Keep an eye on Eberhardt this run to see what he does. We know how strong he is, Evan, on the short runs. Had a strong run off the corner while everyone else battles side by side.
There's a lot of going on. Beta Pack, first challenge, sees the 80 camera on the inside of Nieto for P5. Oh, Nieto's up and into the outside wall. You saw it on the wide shot. He gets into the fence. He'll come down in front of Stanford. Somehow we hang on, and this race marches on. The 90 of Eberhardt, though, is already made up for that poor restart. Oh, and he's going to spin. Daniel Eberhardt on his own. Spins at a turn 2, and we're back under caution.
Had too much gas on it, and with this hot track, you risk the chance of losing control off the corner. That time, Eberhardt sent it as hard as he could into the corner and just absolutely lost it. Bobbled it a little bit too hard on the wheel to the left and just completely did a 360. Lucky to not have any contact in that situation, but man, oh man, what a time for that type of a mistake.
First time we've really seen a single car spin like that. We've seen drivers get loose. We've seen drivers get out to the outside wall because they push on the corner and then they spin. But we really haven't seen somebody just overdrive it, dig like that, and wreck the race car. And, he's able to recover. But I think that in effect takes him out of this race. I was saying that he was able to get on the back bumper of Freenaj. I guess that's how, because he pushed it so hard, and eventually he overstepped the line. Those tires are done for, so he's going to have to come down pit road here at 139.
Yeah, drivers, yes, like to have heat in the tires, but not that type of heat, to say the very least, as him in the 71 along with Washington come in. So that helps Washington be able to catch up to the field. Washington was 3/4 of the field back, or track back, when they took the green flag. But that means one thing: Andrew Freenaj in a great position to take home the W.
The 90 car pits. He's obviously going to get service, but because everybody just got 4 tires, it's not like he's going to have any sort of advantage late in this race. So the 90's in, the 98's back down there as well. What a twist. Thought that maybe it was going to be David Washington out in front on 2 tires. Next thing you know, he pits, gives it back up. Thought Daniel Eberhardt was going to challenge Freenaj. He spins on his own from second. And Jonathan Cadell finds himself now second for the restart, but needing a lot more than what he's had the last few runs if he's got any hope at challenging Freenaj for the last win of the season.
And you have to say, though, regardless how this runs, it's been a strong race for Cadell. He's kept it inside the top 4 from the drop of the green flag, and it's the best driving we've seen from him this entire season. Have to get my hats off to Jonathan Cadell with the drive he's had all day in the pole he had earlier on for qualifying to start off the night, mind you.
And we see the lights stay on, so it is going to be a little bit of a shorter run, and I can't really tell you if that's going to benefit Freenaj or if that's going to benefit Cadell. I would think that the 69 machine would probably want less laps simply because he needs to probably bump and run him early and then kind of dash. The longer that this thing is, if he does that, Freenaj can get back to him. The parallel is, though, if Freenaj gets a good restart, you're going to need laps to catch him. And quite frankly, I don't think anybody can catch him if he gets out in front.
And it's just been that type of a race with Freenaj. He's gotten good starts, inside the restart box and is quickly taken off each and every time. If you're Cadell, you need to time it up real perfectly to have a chance to keep it there, and then you're hoping that Freenach either overcooks the corner a slight touch, or in the other option, you try and use that bumper you talked about if you get close enough here. Going to be curious to see what happens with 8 to go when we get to the green.
Of course, overtime is an option. We saw that last week at Talladega in that thrilling photo finish, closest race in RealSimRacing history. As we saw Eberhardt get his second win of the year, so if necessary, we have up to 3 attempts at green-white checker to finish if we get there. But for now, Andrew Freenach will take a restart with 8 laps to go as he tries to wrap this one up inside of the 150 lap scheduled distance. Pace car off and in. He's been money every single time, and he is once more. Green flag in the air. He's gone on the inside, and here comes Gidman. He'll fight for second.
That's not the start Cadell needed at all, and all the way up in the marbles he goes. This is a disastrous start.
It is not good. Oh, we're 3-4 wide as they fan way out on the dog leg. It's going to have to compact back down into 2 wide racing. It does. Cameron out outside, 3 wide back of the pack as Sam Nieto comes through the middle as this race now tries to make it the distance. Mid-pack, they're going crazy. But up front, it's Freenach by half a second.
And something's got to give in that mid-pack at this point. Cato already getting really squirrely, heading hard on that suspension of the dog leg. Knew he bobbled the car hard to the left again.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of cars get sideways. That 8 Chicano is one of them as he got really loose on quarter number 4. While Nieto was getting by him in a battle for P5. Behind this now, watching Cato fight with Stanford for 7th and 8th spot. Stanford's going to go way up the hill, so he'll lose out to both Cato and Washington, who also drives on through.
And a fight for second up the road, though, as Gidman just got loose and trying to go for the switchback now on Cadell.
He'll slide back down to the inside to try to take this one back. This fight for second. Cadell took it away. The 94 wants to go back at him. And side by side, this is going to put a nail in a coffin for anybody's hopes to catch Freenach as they beat and bang. Here comes Chambliss to the inside. He lurks from P4. Nieto right there in 5th as well.
That was a massive squeeze through the dog leg that time. And Cadell might not be the happiest at that point, but again, has that momentum off the corner, just needs to clear him to get to the bottom.
And you see the 25, oh, he just got shot at by the 25. The Yato gave him a shot to the back bumper. That slows him down. 3 wide in front, 2 rows of 2x2 behind. The main battle here is for second on back. And the 12 car nearly spins behind. Everybody going at it in the final laps of the season. 3 laps to go, that time by.
And Cadell sending the stamp.
Pushed it up the hill a little bit, right on the quarter panel of Gidman. He stays with him. Brian Chambliss so badly wants to make it 3 wide. He's tried on numerous occasions and hasn't been able to get the positioning, but he is right there. Cadell almost clear at a turn 4, but not yet. Gidman won't go away. There's contact at 2 to go.
And at this point, Cadell might be a very rattled at this point. Gidman really trying to test the limits at this point.
And the 12 car at Cato's way out of control. They've still got to make it to the white flag for this race to be official, and they're 3 wide into turn 3.
Eberhardt going right into the only opening he could on the racetrack. This is crazy racing coming to the white flag to end off the season.
And it doesn't matter if they rack it out or not. Andrew Freenach took the white flag. The battle for second looks to be decided. Cadell atop Gidman and Chambliss, barring any last-ditch efforts into turn number 3. The rest of the field still trying everything they can to get a last-second spot, but out in front, as there's nearly wrecks behind, is Andrew Freenach, a 7th win in 10 starts for the Icebreaker Championship.
Domination Station all season long, a well-deserved championship, and probably one of the best seasons we will ever see in the history of RSR competition. Take a bow, Andrew. Take a bow.
All those cars who were going at it on the last lap, I think they made it to the end of the race. And what a way to close off this campaign in Phoenix. Brinaj, atop Cadell, and Gidwin, your top three, who we'll talk with post-race in just a few moments. But a familiar sight, and it's the 88 car burning it down on the front straightaway. That championship trophy going to him. Now a back-to-back, not only Full Throttle Cup Series champion, but a back-to-back Icebreaker Winter Series champion as well.
It's just, again, been such a strong past few seasons for Andrew Frenosh. It's tough to stop him. And he showed it all throughout this winter with his domination.
And I'm sure that he is going to be excited to get this one as, any win for the 88 machine. You think sometimes when you're in victory lane all the time that it gets old, but not for this guy. He loves this competition, and I'm sure that he got his heart rate up on those last couple of race starts. Again, 7 wins in 10 starts, a ludicrous number for the 88 car. As he continues his celebration, we'll step aside for the very final time, and when we come back, we'll talk with your winner and champion from Phoenix. Once again, it's Farinaj on top. Post-race action next on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network.
Once again, photo finish here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Will it be Tim Hogan? It's going to be Christopher DeMerrick at the line.
And back live from the virtual Phoenix Raceway, where LSR TV's coverage of the RealSimRacing Icebreaker Winter Series continued with tonight's season finale. 10 races up, 10 races down, 7 of which are won by our champion, Andrew Ferdinand. We'll talk with him and the rest of your top finishers from tonight in just a moment. But first, as always, I want to welcome you back in the LSR TV booth. Evan Pasoko, Justin Prince with our producer, Randy Jennett. Let's take a look top to bottom at our nphy.org full race results. It's Ferdinand to victory lane, Jonathan Cadell finishing in second spot, and Galen Gidman in third. They'll all be trackside with us momentarily. Brian Chambers finishes P4, and Sam Nieto had quite the up and down night. He finishes 5th. Ross Cato comes home 6th. David Washington, after the two-tire call that never was, finishes 7th. Eric Stanford 8th, and Daniel Eberhardt, maybe the best challenger to Ferdinand tonight. A late spin puts him P9, just ahead of Guile Brooks, who rounds out the top 10.
Kyle Kamer came home in 11th position by 2/1000ths of a second at the line, while Steve Sowa rounded out the drivers on the lead lap in 12th position. Bobby Krug finished 1 lap down in 13th. Rest of the drivers 2 laps down or more. Steve Durham 2 laps down in 14th, along with Tom Morano 3 laps down with Mosier in 16th. Michael Krasinski in 4 laps down was in 17th. Trevin Valderrama in 18th position, 9 laps down. DNFs John Rodden and Scott McClendon on DNS for Bobby Terrell.
To look top to bottom at your nphy.org 150 full race results, let's head down to RealSimRacing to victory lane, where once more we are caught up with the driver of the number 88 Chevrolet, Andrew Ferdinand, winner tonight from Phoenix Raceway. What a way to cap off another championship campaign. And Andrew, it was not a walk in the park. No queue time for you early this evening, so you had to fight through the field, and those late race restarts were one thing, but also just on that green flag run at the beginning, you had some formidable foes before you got up front.
Yeah, man. I didn't get a lot of practice this week, and it definitely showed. But that was probably the funnest race I've had this year. It was a lot of clean race with everybody, and I needed a long run, and Daniel was quicker on the short run. I think that was evident there. I was trying to save tires always on my bumper, and I don't know what happened to him. He lost it, so I think that's the only reason I won. But a shout out to him, because I think if that stayed green with the short run, that was his race to lose.
Of course, talk a bit about Phoenix in these B cars. I know there was a lot of talk about it, obviously, to mimic the real-life schedule, that this becomes the Icebreaker finale. And, I mean, I don't know if you saw anything at the end behind you, but it was nuts on that final restart. But a very different race there compared to, that early green flag run where everybody was trying to conserve equipment and survive. What'd you think of how this race played through?
Yeah, I love the Full Throttle Cup and the Winter Series. It's just such a good series because you get a mix of everything. Some races go green, and tonight we had both. We had a green flag run and then short runs there, so that's just so cool to see. And the long run was really, really fun. Just that the tires fell off, people were getting loose, some people were getting tight. How you managed it, I thought we were really fast, but we weren't quick enough to get up to Daniel before that pit stop. So that's why I pitted a little early. And like I said, on the short run, Daniel was a lot better. I could not figure out how he was driving it in that deep and being so quick. So it was really, really fun to see, and that's what I expect from this league, and it always produces that.
The trophy case continues to grow, not only getting the Cup Series championship at a back-to-back from 2019, but now more hardware on the way as a back-to-back Icebreaker champion, this time for 2020. What does it mean for you?
It means the world, especially for this. This is 10 races, and it doesn't come down to one pressure situation. You can kind of accumulate points all year, and I'm just so fortunate to have speed, and I put time and effort into it, but a lot of it's luck and the people that are around me. Dave Washington, put great people around me that's over the past 4 years showed me how to be fast. So I can't say thank you enough to all of them. And I just, I know I keep winning, but I'm extremely grateful just to be doing this half enough to win. It's almost a dream come true.
We look forward to seeing what this 2020 campaign brings with you, as we look forward to seeing how the Cup Series will play out. There will be more information on that coming shortly. But Andrew, for one last time in this Icebreaker campaign, who makes it happen?
I really want to say thank you to you guys. I know you're admitting, announcing, putting the broadcast on. You guys work so hard, and I think it's underrated. So it's Justin, Evan, all you guys, you do such a great job. All the drivers in this league, I started from the back tonight and raced against people I haven't raced against, all year, and everybody's so respectful. They give room, and I can't say thank you enough. And like I said, one day I hope to give that respect back when I can. Everybody on this team: Dave Washington, Daniel Everhart, Dylan Jones, Kyle Kammer, Eric Stanford. Steve did a hell of a job tonight. I know he had internet issues. He fought back from that. So, to everybody on that Aegis Power Tech team, I know we're forgetting everybody, and all the fans, I really hope you enjoyed all year and especially tonight.
We appreciate you being in the series, Andrew, and oftentimes making it an exciting show. And tonight was another good example of that, as it was a good battle throughout. Congratulations on this win. Congratulations on the 2020 championship. And we look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thanks so much. Look forward to Daytona. I haven't won that one in Full Throttle, so we're going to go hard for that.
There he is, your 2020 Real Sim Racing Icebreaker Winter Series champion and 7-time race winner, Andrew Freenage. We'll pass things on down the line. Jonathan Cadell is second tonight. He's trackside with Justin.
Jonathan, your best run of the season tonight, where you were inside the top 4 from start to finish. Jonathan, how are you feeling after tonight's race?
I hold that thought.
Okay.
Well, I was trying to celebrate there and I messed it all up, but man, I am so pumped. So pumped. Finally got to perform tonight. And, Phoenix is my best track. It really is. And it's a flat track where it requires you to use the brake and all that stuff. And you have to slide through the corners and everything. And it requires you to just, get up on the wheel. And I like that kind of stuff. It's better than doing all this 1.5 mile garbage. So it's fun to be at a racetrack where it requires you to put some will into it. I mean, I say that, and I got my butt kicked at Rockingham a couple weeks ago. So, it is what it is. But it was just fun being up there and, making Andrew think I was going to beat him for about 0.5 laps.
Okay, then. But you were part of one of the crazier battles in terms of positions, because everybody was fighting second on back, it seemed, in that final run to the checker flag. What was going through your head as everybody was trying to go 2-3 wide, and in some cases, even drivers behind you, mind you, were hitting their doors?
Well, I knew, we did, 90 laps, no cautions. I'm like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And sure as heck it did. We had a caution. I'm like, all right, I just got to get up on these restarts. And I got up on the restarts, and I stayed in third. And then that last restart, Galen and I, we were racing pretty hard, and we haven't had the most courteous season with each other. And I'm sitting there in my mind, I'm like, this guy ain't beating me. I ain't gonna let him beat me. I don't care how hard I gotta drive in the corner. If he's in the way, he's gonna be out of the way real quick. So that's what I did. And I didn't mean to bump him. I just meant to rattle his cage a little bit. You know what I mean? So I got him out the way, got on to second, and Andrew with his 8,000 I rating, he can go ahead and win the race by 30 seconds like he does all the time. I'll be happy with second.
How would you describe your season overall after the ups and downs, and tonight being the very high positive this evening?
Oh, it goes like this: garbage, good finish. That's pretty much how the season went.
Anyone you want to thank for being a part of your season, then?
Yeah, I got the new sponsor on board, Extreme Sim Racing. I want to thank Gabe out there for coming on board with that. Got me a pretty cool free rig here. It's always cool to get free stuff. And iRacing iFlag, they send me free stuff too. And for them to sponsor a 3,200 I rating driver, that's pretty cool. I don't know what they like in me, but they like something. All the viewers over here at Still Horse Live, we got 95 people watch me mess up this interview. I tried to shotgun a beer there when you started talking to me, and it was literally the worst shotgun ever. But thank those guys for watching me, and my teammates at Still Horse Racing for egging me on every week, saying, "Oh, that was a good 10th place finish," when they know it was a crap 10th place finish. So at least they got to say it was a good 2nd place finish tonight.
Congratulations on the second either way, and good luck on the cleanup.
Oh, yeah, it's a garage, so I think I'll live. My wife might kill me, though.
Jonathan Cadell, everybody. P number 2, his best finish of the season after being on the pole. In third position tonight, it was Galen Gidman. Galen, how would you describe your race this evening, especially with one of your best finishes this evening?
It was fun. I'm glad it wasn't 160 laps, because at 150 that was about all I had. I told my teammates mid-race that I wanted a refund on the setup, because I'm telling you, that car, I did not like the way that car drove. But it's one of those deals, everybody deals with the same thing, and it was really nice to end the season with 2 podium finishes and kind of finish where I feel like I was more capable of and could have finished, more top fives, more top tens earlier in the season if things had gone better.
Want to ask you about the battle coming to the checker flag. In the final run, it was a thrower between you and Jonathan Caddell. What was your take on that fight for second position at the end?
Well, I was telling Jonathan in the staging room here that I was kind of curious how that was going to play out because he and I had a bit of a incident in Iowa, and I know he wasn't too happy about it. So I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to get raced, and I knew he was better than me all night long. I was just stealing whatever I could with track position late there, but we ended up having a really fun race, and I mean we were beating and banging a little bit, but even when that happened, it wasn't one guy running into the other. It was just 2 cars going for the same spot. So I had a lot of fun, and then once he got past me, I knew that it was over because he'd been faster the whole time. So I had a lot of fun and was really pleased to come out of it with third place anyway.
You hit upon it a little bit, but how would you describe your overall season when thinking back at things? Because it was an interesting campaign from you as the season progressed.
Yeah, I think it's just the way they go. I had good run at Daytona, and then Daytona happens. There's crashes. I had a good run going at Atlanta, and stepped on it there, and then had a lot of really bad luck at some other races where there was kind of nothing I could do, and just got caught up in other people's stuff or whatever. So I'm pleased that there were only 2 races I can look back on and go, yeah, I was the one that blew that. Because ultimately all you can control is what you can control, and the rest kind of plays it out. So I'll take only 2 bad races and happy to finish it off with a couple of good runs.
Is there anyone you want to thank for being a part of your campaign for 2019-20?
Everybody at Aegis, it was really fun to get to race with them. Congratulations to Andrew on the championship. He sure deserved it. FastForwardEsports.com. We got some cool stuff planned this year. Thank you all for broadcasting. Shout out to Lindsay if she's still watching the broadcast, and hope to do this again.
Congratulations on the top 3 finish tonight, your second third place finish of the campaign.
Thanks.
Gavin Goodman coming home in third tonight. It was an interesting season to say the very least, and an interesting way to end it, Evan. And we've seen some of the emotion from some of the drivers, I think, where they were happy with how tonight turned out, with the competitiveness and the competitiveness of the whole series as a whole. I feel like it was a great campaign.
And I think a lot of the drivers, we talked about how chaotic that last run to the end was. I think a lot of drivers really enjoyed that. I mean, this race could have gone green the end. Instead we had a couple of cautions that made it maybe more exciting and, more stress-inducing, certainly for a lot of the drivers, than this race looked like it was going to be. But I think for this race to close out, Andrew Ferdinand continues to be one of the best non-pro drivers in iRacing, and, one of the better drivers when you talk about like league racing to that extent, and, has been in RSR for so long, and, to see Jonathan Caddell get a good result, the Eberhards, and, those names who have been around for so long, but also some of the new guys to, in that final 10 laps to just go at it, I think was a really fun way to close out this 10-race campaign that started with us all the way back at the start of December from, Daytona, when Nick Holslander won it. Andrew Ferdinand would go on to win 7 of the last 9 races. Only Eberhard able to sneak in there with a win in Fontana and in Talladega last week. But another fun one as we close the book on this Winter Series campaign, but also open up the 2020 racing calendar with the Cup Series beginning in just about a month.
And I'm very curious to see how the drivers race in the Cup Series, because remember, the tire model is on the Cup cars as well, to see how those drivers adapt to the track conditions and adapt to the tracks themselves. It's going to be interesting. A bit different in the real world schedule, mind you. it's going to be interesting to see how 2020's Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series action plays out.
And of course, we hope that you join us for those as 2020 opens up. But until next time, and for the final time for this Icebreaker campaign, that's it for us here from Phoenix Raceway. Of course, the best way to stay up to date with us so you know when more action will be coming to you is to go to our website at www.livesimracing.com/RealSimRacing, or just click the Real Sim Racing tab at the top of the screen. That's where you'll find Full Throttle Cup Series info. You can also find it by keeping up with us on social. You can keep up with Real Sim Racing by searching Real Sim Racing on Facebook and following at Real Sim Racing on Twitter. Same goes for LSR TV. That's Facebook.com/LSR TV official and at LSR TV on Twitter. On behalf of our entire team at LSR TV and at Real Sim Racing, and for the broadcast team tonight, for our producer downstairs, Randy Cheneth, for Justin Prince, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for being a part of it and congratulate Andrew Freitas, the 2020 Real Sim Racing Icebreaker Winter Series champion.